We will talk about. All right, okay, listen up. So we're moving on. Moving on. We're going to talk about industrialization, nationalism, and imperialism leading up to, what do you think? War. World War I. Yeah, good job. So we're getting there. We're getting there. So just need to talk about this period of time where all these countries in Europe are expanding, they're growing, they're becoming a little bit more innovative. And this is going to be applied obviously to their economy, but also to their military. So that's going to only heighten tensions moving forward. But we need to review a little bit of the Congress of Vienna. So you had a reading about this yesterday. Watch the video on it. Hopefully you took some notes. You're supposed to. And that's really just shaping up Europe after the Napoleonic Wars, which we finished up right before break, which I was really proud, pretty happy with you guys and how you did. And yeah, so I was really happy with your results on those tests. So moving on here, we're going to talk about industrialization, imperialism, and nationalism. What's up, Paul? This is a new chapter, yes. New chapter. What is this? No. Like close? No warm? No. You are not in the ice cold. What? Freezing it. Well, now you're getting warmer. You're boiling now.
It's pretty hot over there. Working up a sweat bone.
Really?
Get a movie right.
Is it just
No, it's written down.
Yeah, it's definitely. I'll check it out second period. I'll take the whole board off if I have to.
We come back from.
Quiet bell ringer, get working. Shh, thank you.
What do you do?
What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
I'm gonna pin you worse than those guys at the tournament.
Haha.
Why has to get the glue off his back?
Bear crops.
A tumbler, cool.
Is that the same?
And gushers inside of it.
My favorite. I'm blurring gushers.
I'm cheering for you. Awesome. Oop. Just working on the bell ringer here, Caroline. All right, so to give you another bell ringer here, we're just going to review what you read about yesterday and what we talked about towards the end of the chapter, last chapter, the Napoleonic Wars. All right, so the Congress of Vienna. So what was it? What was it? Real quick, go ahead. Why'd they meet and who met? Chris, go ahead.
It was representatives of different nations only affected.
Yeah, good job.
They were coming together to explore order.
Awesome. Good job. Good job. So one of the biggest things here after the Napoleonic Wars was that these European countries that were all affected by Napoleon and his power and his invasions, literally of all of Europe, okay, they wanted to try to come up with a way to try to bring stability back to Europe, try to provide peace for years on end. Okay, and with these countries like Russia, which we already talked about already, okay, there's a lot of I guess you say alliances forming to a point where they wanted to make sure that another power like Napoleon, like France, could not rise and try to take out what was already structured there. And one of the things I thought was interesting with this Congress of Vienna was that it was a way to try to provide peace, but at the same time bring back what type of political structure? What type of political structure? Paul, go ahead. Yeah, good job. A monarchy, right? Why a monarchy? Reminder, remember, we talked about Napoleon quite a bit already, and we mentioned about how this Constitution of the French Revolution was aimed to try to provide liberties and freedoms and give opportunities for people. And Napoleon thought, well, we can just spread this all throughout Europe, right? This is a good thing. Why do they want to return back to these monarchies here? Go ahead.
Because all of them are monarchies still.
Yeah, good job, right? So it's one of the things to note that these countries in Europe are still monarchies, right? Great Britain, they had a constitutional monarchy. It's a little bit different, but at the same time, this was providing structure for so long, right? Is the idea that they just kind of fell back on, right? It was there for a long period of time. It's like, you know what? I'll just stick with my guns here. I don't know if you guys ever go on Netflix or something. You're sitting there, you're trying to find a new movie or show, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? All these movies and shows, they don't seem like they're piquing my interest. So you go back to watch a show or a movie that you watched before. It's like, oh yeah, same thing here. We're just going to go back to this political structure that's provided stability for so long. Something that we can trust, something that we know that I don't say works fully, but somewhat works. So let's go over the assignment from yesterday real quick. All right, number one, why did the Congress of Vienna meet? Well, we just talked about it after Napoleonic Wars, right? So after Napoleonic Wars, these European countries all needed to try to provide structure, stability back to Europe. And they thought the way to do it is by providing these monarchies and putting these monarchies, these kings, back on the throne. All right, okay, number two, explain what the Congress of Vienna meant by legitimacy and compensation. What do we got? Sorry, I'm fixing the screen here. We got for number two, someone other than Wyatt. Connor, thank you.
Legitimacy and two things throne and compensation of each papers.
Yeah, good job, good job. So the king will be placed back on the throne, and for the compensation, anything that was lost, right? Any type of, let's say, land or territory, riches, you name it. Okay, that will be given back to that said king. Again, to try to provide structure and stability. The goal was to make sure that these European countries can somewhat have peace moving forward. All right, good. Three, why can we say that leaders of the Congress of Vienna were reactionaries? How so? Go ahead, Parker.
Because they had to create this Congress reaction to.
Yeah, good job, right? They're reacting of Napoleon, right? Napoleonic Wars. Okay, they wanted to try to react. They had to react to a lot of the, I guess you say, the outcome of what these wars brought. Okay, we talked a little bit about it towards the end of the last chapter. We mentioned a term that I told you to remember. What was that term? It starts with an N. It's going to lead to World War One. So you can kind of see that this isn't going to really work out too well. Connor. Nationalism. Yep, good job. Nationalism. So with these reactionaries, they thought, well, we need to try to react to what this change really brought forth with the Napoleonic Age, Napoleonic Wars. Okay, this really brought a downfall to the legitimacy of the feudal system, of these kings, these monarchs, this political structure. The way to bring it back is literally try to infuse the feudal system back. But once people have a taste of these opportunities, these freedoms, these liberties, chances are that's not going to work out. And with nationalism, okay, this extreme sense of national pride in one's country, Okay, this is not gonna, lend to these monarchies. These are not gonna bring back the system that was in play for so long, right? There's only gonna be change. There's only gonna be rivalries moving forward that's gonna bring on another war. All right, so number 4, how successful do you think Metternich and the other reactionaries were when they tried returning Europe to the way it was before? So we just kind of mentioned it. Elena, what do you got? Sorry, Alana. What? Did you do it? All right, hey, quit lying then. All right, quit lying. All right, good. So with that, democracy, these new democratic views, all right, nationalism is going to emerge, conservatism is going to emerge as well, but we'll see how all of these new ideas here will come in conflict with one another. And yeah, the Congress of Vienna, it tried to meant well by providing peace, providing stability back to Europe, but returning it back to this old system of monarchy is not going to work out, right? Again, like I mentioned, with these liberties, these freedoms, a constitution that's provided by and really developed by what we saw with these Enlightenment thinkers. Okay, once these people have a taste of this, they don't want to go back to this old system. They want to see their opportunities. They want to see their freedoms, their liberties being expressed. Okay, they don't want to see that being taken away. So with that, yeah, you can kind of say it was somewhat of a failure, right? In any case, this is going to bring heightened nationalism. Okay, intense rivalries and competitions amongst these European countries moving forward. And with industrialization, which we're going to be talking about here today, right, this is going to push these countries into creating the new innovations, these new advancements. And a lot of that's going to be pushed towards the military, right? So militaries through this time of the 1800s after the Napoleonic Wars, moving up into the early 1900s, they're only going to ramp up their militaries and innovate to a point where it's going to break eventually. All right, we'll also talk about imperialism and how these countries are going to look to try to expand their own influence. Somewhat like we mentioned with the age of exploration, that first global age, but it's going to be a little bit different. All right, so real quick, guys, let's go to modules here. I'll show you where this chapter is. We will be talking about the United States here, America as well. It's kind of hard to leave them out. Especially when we move into industrialization and when we get to World War I. Okay, once we get to World War II, it's pretty much going to be a lot of America. And then afterwards, we're going to be talking about the United States a lot. I know it's world history, but it's kind of hard to leave them out at this point. All right, so there we go. Chapter 4, an era of European imperialism. So this is what the page looks like. I'm sure you guys saw it yesterday. You'll see the textbook chapters attached. So if you guys want to gain a little bit more information, read through a little bit to prepare yourself, that's great. Or if we refer to the book, that's where you find it. Is it chapter? Yeah, it is chapter 5, isn't it? All right, I'll change that. Sorry. Presentations for the unit. Here's the presentation for the Industrial Revolution. That's where you can find it. You can click on it. You'll be good to go. All right. Okay. Connor, what the? All right, here are your terms for today. Chapter 5. Yes, chapter 5. I will alter that. I will change it. So there you go. I know we talked about the Congress of Vienna already, but I want to make sure you have that term so we can kind of transition from the last chapter. And we're moving into a new direction. We will talk about the first wave of the Industrial Revolution and the second wave of the Industrial Revolution. Maybe not today, but maybe more tomorrow and day after. There you go. Just like JJ. DJ. Too. Didn't he play with the Steelers too? What's that? I thought so. Is he still with them?
They're thinking, if they're from the stone skills. I just know we played,
Fullback.
kickers.
Just play fullback.
Yeah, but nobody really remembers it.
All right, terms. Do you need another minute here? Okay, no problem. All right, so we talked about the Congress of Vienna already. Okay, we mentioned about how these countries in Europe, like Prussia, Russia, Great Britain, Austria, they came together to try to bring stability back to Europe after the Napoleonic Wars. Okay, in a way, they're gonna, make sure another power never rises like what we saw with Napoleon and France. And the goal was to try to revert back to somewhat of this feudal system, right? Try to bring back these monarchies that provide a stability of structure for so long. Okay, this is not going to last too long. Like I mentioned with nationalism, with these new innovations, with industrialization, eventually, okay, this is going to crack again. Eventually, the views of democracy and these Enlightenment thoughts are going to be really projected onto Europe, and a lot of these countries are going to transition in different ways. All right, agrarian revolution. What happened to the agrarian revolution? Chris, go ahead. Yeah, good job, right? Good job. So one of the biggest issues we talked about with Europe for many, many years, especially during the Dark Ages, is that there's a low food supply. And we mentioned about the absolute monarchy, right? Especially when it came to absolutism, right? We mentioned about how the food supply caused a lot of hardships on the people, especially in France. The French Revolution was pushed, a lot of it, because there's a lack of food. Right, this agrarian revolution brought a lot of change to Europe and the rest of the world. More of a food supply. Okay, obviously this is going to alter change. It's going to alter a lot of different new methods and viewpoints and innovations, spurring the Industrial Revolution. So that's why we're talking about this agrarian revolution. This is inspiring many different ways of change. And as farming becomes a little bit more innovative, so does everything else. As more of a food supply is emerging, well, this is going to transition society and life in a different direction, especially towards this industrial revolution. All right, so we'll talk about a few inventions today and a few key figures that bring on this rare revolution. All right, so Jethro Tull, yeah, what was he famous for creating? What was he famous for creating? Hell yeah, okay, I knew someone. What do we got? What do we got? All right, Chris, thank you. Seed drill. The seed drill. Yep, good job. Good job. So the seed drill, I'll show you a picture here soon. And I even have a video attached to the video lesson for today. You can see how this is really done. But this is really just kind of like a hand carting away. And it would actually till up some of the dirt, some of the soil, the earth, and it would drop a seed as you're plowing through the field. Right? And then actually there was something behind this plow. There's somewhat of a metal sphere. Metal hemisphere that would just push the dirt right back on top of the seed that you just planted. So I know it sounds a little plain and simple, but the seed drill was revolutionizing the way food was produced, right? The way these fields were created. And eventually this will inspire more people to eventually expand past, obviously with an oversupply of food, to look to new ways of making money, currency in this industrial revolution. So yeah, the seed drill, right? So today they look a lot different than what they did back in the late 1700s and early 1800s. Obviously on the back of tractors, new ways of trying to plant as much crops as possible to help with these food supplies. James Watt. What happened for James Watt? What's he famous for? Amelia, go ahead. The steam engine. Yep, good job. Steam engine. So this is going to change the Industrial Revolution, right? This is the first wave of the Industrial Revolution. And with James Watt, okay, he creates a steam engine that's going to be applied to creating different types of textiles. Okay, this is going to fuel factories when it comes to trying to weave clothing. When it comes to trains, steam engines for boats, right? Obviously, it's going to really inspire a lot of change, a lot of innovation, not just to the economy, but to military. So, with James Watt, the steam engine, obviously powered by coal, this is going to heat pretty much a huge metal pot that's going to create a lot of steam. That's going to move pistons. That's going to move a wheel. That's going to create electricity. So we'll talk more about that here today, and how this is going to inspire a lot of change when it comes to locomotives, when it comes to trains, when it comes to steam-powered boats, you name it. All right, the first wave of the Industrial Revolution. What do we have? First wave. We'll talk about this more tomorrow. Where does it occur? The first wave of the Industrial Revolution. Where does it occur? Where does it happen? And what's pretty much used as a fuel? Go ahead, Paul.
Things start in Britain.
Yeah, Great Britain.
Things like textiles, iron, steam,
Yeah, good job, good job. So we'll talk more about the Industrial Revolution, the first wave tomorrow. Okay, how it occurs in Great Britain, factors why Great Britain. Okay, one of the biggest reasons is because they're the strongest world power at the time, right? They have a lot of expansion when it comes to their colonies, their territory around the world. Okay, there is a quote that they say, it's like, oh, the sun never sets on the British Empire. Why? Because it's so huge, it's large. And they have a lot of resources coming into the island of Great Britain. Also, when it comes to coal, right? The coal-powered engines, right? So that's important for industrialization. That's important for innovation during this time. Okay, and that's why it happens in Great Britain. Also, okay, when it comes to these wars like the Napoleonic Wars, were they ever fought on Great Britain? On the island? No, no, it happened all throughout Europe. So pretty much all of Europe was destroyed from these wars, and Great Britain was A-okay. Yeah, they lost the population because of wars, but for the most part, when it comes to the land, when it comes to the cities, the areas where these people live in Great Britain, they really untouched. So this allowed them to obviously push out this new revolution, this industrial revolution. So the main thing to note about this industrial revolution, the first wave, it occurs from the late 1700s to the mid 1800s. So if you want to put that as a range, that would be great. So late 1700s to the mid 1800s. And the fuel that's used is coal, right? Coal. And what type of engines? Well, steam powered. So make sure you guys note that. Steam powered engines, coal is used as the energy for this. And when it comes to this time frame, 1700s, late 1700s to mid 1800s. All right, so we'll talk about that more tomorrow here. So next thing, second wave of the Industrial Revolution. Where does this occur? And what is being utilized here? What new advancements, innovations? What do we got? What do we got? The second wave. Go ahead, Chris. Yeah, good job. So you got electricity. You got utilize chemicals. Okay. When it comes to fuel, you're going to be using more of an oil combustion chamber. Okay, so when it comes to gasoline, oil, okay, these are going to be the engines that are going to transition from the steam-powered engines. Where did it occur? Anybody? Where did it occur? Not Great Britain, not too far from here. Who's going to be the big bill on the World War? Austin, Germany. Yes, Germany. Good. So we'll talk about the second wave of the Industrial Revolution. But with Germany, okay, it's going to be unified. It's going to be Prussia.
Yes, they're gonna win the fight for Russia.
Hey, we'll talk about it, so don't leave it away for everybody else. Okay. That's why the first wave didn't happen in Germany, because they weren't unified just totally yet. With Prussia, they're unifying, and it's going to be one whole unified Germany. So with that, you have electricity, you have chemicals, right? You have gasoline-powered engines, okay, fuel-powered engines, and somewhat what we see even still today. For the second wave, you can say it starts right around the mid-1800s, and it carries through the Second World War. Okay, and even some argue that it leads up to the 1970s, 1980s, when obviously we have more of an innovation when it comes to technology, what we see today. All right, so first and second wave. Make sure you guys remember that's important, especially moving forward when we get to the First and Second World War. All right, okay, I want to skim through this pretty quick since we have a little bit of time. The Industrial Revolution. Huh? Okay. All right, so the introduction here. The Industrial Revolution. So this is an era when power-driven machinery was developed, okay? So like I said, it has to start somewhere, and it starts with this agrarian revolution. With a larger food supply, this is solving a lot of the issues with famine. Okay, we talk a lot about the diseases, the sicknesses that all spread throughout Europe with, let's say, the Black Plague. A lot of it because of famine, a lot of it because of lack of food. So this has to stem somewhere. This has to start somewhere. And with this industrial revolution, it actually starts with the agricultural field. All right, with these new innovations to creating more food and a larger food supply, this will ultimately cause a ripple effect, which will change the workings of life forever. So you'll see a lot more innovations in the factories because you see a lot of innovations on the farm fields. You'll see a lot of innovations of transportation because you need to get the crops, the food, the supplies to the factories to make finalized goods out of it. So overall, you can see how this industrial revolution causes a ripple effect. It's a transition that causes more innovations and through the means of life. With this industrial revolution, this is known as kind of the first modern period. And the reason for it is because we see a lot of transition and changes to what our life looks like today, right? Especially when it comes to the work week, when it comes to hours worked. Oh, we hate it. Oh, geez. But I tell you what, that is where it starts. Okay. And when you look at new fields of study like sociology, psychology, it all emerges because of this industrial revolution. And there's going to be a lot of viewpoints that are stating the facts of positives of this new change of life and a lot of negatives as well. So you're going from a typical agrarian farmer to now moving towards a new innovative society where you see factories emerging in these larger cities, urbanization, okay, obviously industrialization, new innovations that are not only going to be applied to the factory setting, but to the military. All right, so causes of the industrial revolution, like I mentioned, the agrarian revolution, okay, with a larger food supply, well, there's going to be a larger population. With that larger population, obviously it's going to be used to help create new finalized goods, fixed goods, and the economic systems of the time are just going to totally change. Right? You see it start to emerge when that first global age, we talked about the commercial revolution already, and how these countries in Europe are expanding their markets by accessing resources, not only in their own country, but outward, everywhere else. All right, this is not going to go away. This is only going to be expanded upon in this chapter when we talk a lot about imperialism and how these European countries are moving into Asia, Africa, and they're forming an extractive economy. So we'll talk about these extractive economies here soon enough. I even have a game for you. You guys ever played Risk?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay, okay.
Cheats.
Connor cheats. I will note
They
that.
do
I will
cheat.
write that down.
They team up on me.
Okay. Anyway.
Scared.
All right.
They don't
Quiet,
want
quiet,
this.
quiet. So I do have a game for you when we get closer to imperialism. It's called the Scramble for Africa. You're going to act like a European country and you're going to fight for these territories, which I think is pretty fun. All right, so with that, right, we have new methods of innovation, right? We have the seed drill. Who created that? What was his name again? The seed drill term?
Man.
Oh, yeah, the man. Jethro Tull. Good job. So, as you can see here, it's not anything crazy, but at the time, this was very innovative. This was a faster way to plant seeds. How did they do it back before? Well, by hand. You get down on your hands and knees, and you dig a hole, you throw a seed in there, you cover it back up, and you got a lot of back pain. You get real dirty. And like I said, with sickness, disease, that spreads pretty quick. Right now, you have a new innovative way to plant seeds. And with that, okay, you can create a larger farm field, which will eventually lead to these farmers buying up more land, creating more land, well, buying up more land to a point where this is going to push out some of these poorer farmers as these new innovations are emerging during this time of the Industrial Revolution. So Jethro Tull, okay, this is really what it looked like. As you can see, they kind of push this seed drill through the dirt, through the soil, through the earth. It would create a cut into the earth, right? And as you can see here, the seeds are piled up into these chambers. They would drop right down inside of what you just dug up. And there usually is a back piece to it, which covers up the dirt, that covers up the seeds as you're moving through the farm fields. So I don't know why it doesn't really have that back piece on it, but in any case, I guess you can just go back behind and kick it with your feet, right, as you're moving through. But this is planting a lot of seeds all at once, and this was the first movement of this industrial revolution. Again, it's like a trigger effect. It's like a transition, a ripple effect. You'll first have the seed drill, and then eventually, once you have a larger supply of goods and food and crops, you need to transport it to the marketplace. So this is going to push for new innovations. That's going to push for, let's say, railroads, steam engines, right? As these new innovations are emerging. Hold on, let me get through this. I'm running low on time. So with that, a grand revolution, you have wealthy farmers buying up land and buying small fields and create larger ones. So as these larger farm fields are coming into play, well, this is only going to push for more innovations as the growth of these farm fields are occurring under these wealthy farmers. They need to find new methods of really attaining and maintaining these huge farm fields. So eventually you'll see tractors emerge, right? You'll see eventually what we know as new forms of innovations being applied to the farm field to help these wealthier farmers out. Crop rotation. We talked a little bit about this during the medieval times, the Dark Ages. That was on its early onset, right? We talked about the moldboard plow. You guys remember that? Yeah, somewhat. Okay. Well, anyway, with the crop rotation, this is allowing for farm fields to continue to have the natural nutrients needed to grow crops, right? If you just continue to grow the same crop over and over and over again, you're going to lose your yield. You're going to lose your nutrients needed to grow these crops. So eventually, you're not going to have much of a farm field. So with the crop rotation, this is going to provide more nutrients to the field that you need to grow more crops and to grow healthier crops. So with that, this is all causing a large supply, a surplus of food, which is needed for these new changes in society, like the Industrial Revolution. All right, so with that, population growth. Again, with a larger supply of food, you're going to have a larger population. And it's going to solve a lot of the issues that we mentioned already with famine, diseases, and sicknesses spreading all throughout Europe. With a larger supply of food, right, immune systems are going to be built up, right? Again, with a larger population, this is going to push for new innovations, like I mentioned, with urban cities being created with these new industrial factories that are going to fuel these economies moving forward and fuel this new age of expansion and innovation. All right. Also, energy revolution. So from beginning of history, right, we talked about how, when it comes to domesticating animals, that was the way to try to till up these fields and plant new crops, seeds in these fields, you name it. But now with these new forms of energy like coal and using steam-powered engines is going to change the game, right? And how these new forms of energy is going to fuel these new innovations, not only with the farm fields, but with transportation. You name it. All right, so we'll continue this on more tomorrow. See you guys later. Have a good one. Take care. I'll have that assignment graded for you here soon enough.